All right. We're ready to dive into Ian Kerner's She Comes First,
Oh, yeah, definitely.
a book that really challenges how we think about pleasure
Mm-hmm.
and intimacy in relationships.
For sure.
This is going to get up close and personal, but in a thought-provoking way.
Yeah.
Kerner, a sex therapist, really made some waves with this book, especially back when it first came out.
Definitely sparked a lot of conversation, especially for like back in 2009.
Yeah,
I mean, that was,
it was a different time.
yeah, totally.
What's so interesting about his approach
Wow.
is that he links prioritizing female pleasure
Yeah.
with a more fulfilling relationship
Mm-hmm.
for both partners, not just the woman.
Exactly. It's like it's not a zero-sum game.
Yeah, that's what really intrigued me about it.
Yeah.
It's like you're not just taking away,
Right.
you're actually
They're adding.
adding
Yeah.
to both sides.
Yeah.
So how does he get to that point?
Well, he starts by breaking down
Yeah.
a lot of common misconceptions about female sexuality. And he calls this the clitoral truth,
Okay, so is he talking about
emphasizing the clitoris. The clitoris's crucial role in female pleasure.
Okay.
Yeah, he really...
So there is some anatomy in this book.
There is, but he does a really fantastic job
Okay.
of explaining things really simply and clearly.
Okay.
So even for those of us who aren't like medical experts, he demystifies some of these anatomical concepts.
Okay.
And, understanding the mechanics of it really helps debunk some of the myths
Mhm.
about female orgasm that have persisted for so long.
It was really eye-opening, honestly.
Yeah.
Like reading this, I was like, wow,
Yeah.
someone is finally setting the record straight.
Yeah, exactly.
But it goes beyond just the anatomy, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like you're not just learning.
It's not just a textbook.
Yeah.
He provides very specific techniques and guidance.
Okay.
And he really emphasizes the importance of oral sex.
Okay. And I can see how that might make some people a little uncomfortable.
Yeah, right.
But he does approach it in a very respectful and educational way.
Yeah.
It's not
Mhm.
exploitive at all.
No, not at all. And I think his writing style is very clear, and he even injects humor,
Yeah.
which I think helps to make those topics approachable,
It makes you more comfortable.
more comfortable. Yeah. And he also stresses that, everyone is different and
Yeah.
communication is key. So it's
Uh-huh.
not about following like a rigid set of instructions.
Yeah.
It's more about being attentive and responsive.
Right. And understanding your partner and what they like.
Exactly. And like understanding, what they're responding to and what they're enjoying.
And it sounds like while he does get into those specific techniques,
Right.
it's not just about the
He
mechanics.
explicitly links the physical pleasure
Right.
to emotional intimacy.
So it really is about deepening that connection as well.
Absolutely. And he really encourages couples to practice what he calls a mindful sexuality.
Okay, mindful sexuality. What does that actually look like?
Yeah, it's about like being truly present with your partner,
Okay.
noticing like every detail, like from their breath to like the way their body responds to your touch.
Yeah.
It's about, focusing on the subtle cues
Yeah.
and really tuning into their experience,
Okay.
which I think in turn creates a much deeper connection.
Okay.
And this actually resonates with a lot of the broader ideas of mindfulness.
Yeah, like we see that everywhere now.
It's like a big trend.
It's like a buzzword,
Yeah.
but it's an important concept.
Yeah, absolutely.
So he's basically saying, how do we take that and apply it to intimacy?
To intimacy, yeah.
Yeah. What stood out to you about the book? Was
Yeah.
there anything that surprised you?
Well, honestly, it was his empathy.
Okay.
Like, he acknowledges that, men often have insecurities
Yeah.
around this topic. And rather than being judgmental,
Yeah.
he approaches it with a lot of understanding and compassion.
I totally agree. I felt that too.
Yeah.
Like he understands that we all want to please each other
Yeah.
and we may just not know where to start or
Yes,
how.
totally.
And he does give very specific step-by-step guidance,
Yeah.
which can be really helpful for
Mhm.
people who are like, okay, where do I begin?
Yeah.
Now, were there any areas where you thought the book could have been a little stronger?
Well, one thing that stood out to me was that the book is predominantly written from a heterosexual perspective.
Yeah.
And I think, exploring LGBTQ plus relationships
Mm-hmm.
would have enriched the book's insights.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
And while I appreciate the focus on oral sex
Yeah.
as this key element,
Right.
I did kind of wonder if maybe expanding the scope a little bit
Yeah.
would have been helpful.
I agree with that. But I think,
Yeah.
even with those considerations, I think She Comes First lays a really solid foundation
Mm-hmm.
for understanding and prioritizing female pleasure.
Yeah.
And it really encourages a shift in perspective, which is so important.
It's a different way of thinking about it.
Yeah.
It's not the way we used to think about things.
It challenges us to move away from those outdated assumptions
Yeah.
and embrace a more
But balanced,
nuanced and equitable
equitable,
approach to intimacy.
which I think is so important.
Yeah, and I think that's really where the book's cultural impact comes in.
Yeah, we'll talk about that more in a bit.
Yeah, definitely.
But it really did start some important conversations.
Absolutely.
And really helped pave the way for more openness and honesty
Yeah,
around female sexuality and pleasure.
for sure.
Yeah, it really did make waves, this book,
Yeah.
when it first came out. It's kind of crazy to think about
Mm-hmm.
how different things were back then in 2009.
Oh, totally.
Like just having these open,
Yeah.
frank conversations
Yeah.
about female pleasure,
Mm-hmm.
and especially clitoral stimulation,
Yeah.
it was not really talked about in the mainstream media.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was pretty taboo. Like,
Yeah.
people would just kind of whisper about it.
It was like, ooh,
Yeah, exactly.
you know.
Yeah.
But this book felt like, okay, finally,
Yeah, like finally someone was...
someone is saying it.
Yeah, and addressing something that so many women
We're experiencing
are
out.
experiencing but not talking about.
But it was like, shh, quiet,
Yeah, like it was a secret.
you know?
Yeah, and I think what Kerner did
Yeah.
was he reframed it as
Yeah.
something to celebrate and
Yeah.
prioritize, not just an afterthought, you know?
Right.
He made it okay
Yeah.
to talk about.
Which is huge.
Yeah, if you...
Because it really was, I think, a
Yeah.
big part of this shift
Mm-hmm.
towards more sexual equity
Yeah.
and mutual satisfaction in relationships.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like moving away from that old paradigm where it's just about
Yeah, like the man's...
the man's performance,
Yeah.
you know, and it's like, okay, no, we're both here.
Yeah, exactly. Like, he really advocates
Yeah.
for a more collaborative approach.
Yeah, working together.
Yeah, where both partners are working together to create pleasure for both of them.
Right. And that shift, I think, can be really empowering
Empowering for everyone involved.
for everyone.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering, did that message face any resistance? Because it does challenge
For sure.
some pretty ingrained
beliefs.
you know?
Yeah, there was definitely some controversy,
Yeah.
particularly around like his emphasis on oral sex.
Yeah.
You know, some critics felt it was like too narrow a focus, or
Right.
that it put like undue pressure on men.
Right. Like it's all about that.
Yeah.
But I think his goal was,
Right.
you know, was to highlight
Yeah.
the importance of female pleasure
Exactly.
and encourage partners to actually devote the time and attention to it.
Totally. And he stresses throughout the book, like,
Yeah.
the importance of open communication and mutual respect. Like, it's not...
It's not a one-way street.
No, it's not a one-way street. It's about...
It's about finding what works.
Yeah, like, finding
Actually-
out the view
Yeah, like what works for both partners.
and figuring out how to
Right.
create that balance.
That balance, yeah.
You know?
And I think that message definitely resonated.
Yeah, it seems like it did.
Like, I mean, the book became a bestseller,
Right.
and it's still influential today.
Even all these years later,
Yeah,
which is pretty amazing.
it is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
It makes you think about like how much
Mhm.
things have changed, even just in the past 15 years.
Oh, totally.
You know, and I think
Yeah.
books like this
Yeah.
and movements like #MeToo
Mm-hmm.
have really contributed to that.
Yeah, absolutely.
They've created space
Yeah, created space
for these conversations.
to have these open discussions
Mhm.
about female sexuality and pleasure.
It's like a shift away from shame.
Yeah.
Moving away from shame and silence.
And silence, yeah.
Being like, you know what, I
I'm
can
moving toward,
speak up for myself.
yeah, more honest, empowered conversations about
Yes.
what women actually want
What we want, what we need.
and need. Yeah,
And it's about time, right?
it's about time. Yeah.
But how does this cultural shift connect back to our listener?
Well, I think first and foremost, it tells them that they're not alone.
Okay.
You know, if they're facing challenges
Mm-hmm.
with these issues, if they're feeling insecure or unsure,
Yeah.
you know, there's a lot of information out there now
Yeah.
and support available.
You know, you can be open
Yeah.
and honest
Yeah.
with your partner.
Yeah. About what you need.
Yeah, and what you want.
Yeah.
And you can expect them to be
Yes.
receptive and supportive.
It's okay to ask.
Mm.
It's okay to have those needs.
Totally.
And you don't have to suffer in silence.
Yeah, you don't have to suffer in silence.
Like, it's okay to say something. And I think it's also about understanding
Yeah.
that great sex goes beyond just
Yeah.
physical technique, you know?
It's not just a checklist.
It's about connection and
Mhm.
trust and being present
Yeah.
and attentive to your partner.
Which brings us back to
mindful sexuality.
mindful sexuality, right?
Yeah.
It's not just a buzzword.
No, it's not just a trendy term.
It's a valuable approach
It's an approach.
that can really make a difference.
And what's fascinating is that this idea of mindfulness can extend beyond the bedroom.
Okay, tell me more about that.
Yeah, like it can influence how we communicate,
Okay.
how we approach conflict,
Right.
how we show up for each other on a daily basis.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
So it's not just about spicing things up sexually.
Yeah.
It's about bringing that awareness and presence into every aspect
of the whole relationship.
of the relationship.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's something everyone can benefit from.
Yeah, sure.
Regardless of gender or sexual orientation.
It's universal.
Yeah, it's universal.
Yeah, it really is pretty powerful.
It is.
Bringing mindfulness into all aspects of a relationship.
Yeah.
It almost seems like she comes first.
Yeah.
Is it more about the bedroom, or is it
That's a great...
like a relationship guide overall?
I think it's both.
Yeah, I think so too.
Like while he focuses on enhancing sexual intimacy,
Right.
he does it in a way that naturally
It kind of bleeds over.
into other aspects of the relationship.
Right, because if you're really present with your partner and you're attuned to their needs, not just physically, but emotionally,
Yeah, exactly.
you know, that attentiveness.
It's gonna show up in the way you communicate, how you handle conflict.
Right, yeah, how you show up for each other every day.
Right.
Exactly.
It's not just compartmentalized. No, and I think, like, imagine that feeling of being, like, truly seen and understood in the bedroom. Like, it just fosters such a level of trust and intimacy that I think strengthens your bond in all areas.
So it's like that vulnerability leads to a deeper connection.
Exactly.
Which is obviously beneficial.
Yeah, for any couple.
For any couple, not just, you know.
Yeah, like in a romantic relationship.
So maybe she comes first is like a stepping stone.
I like that, yeah.
Towards a more mindful and connected relationship.
It's like a gateway.
Yeah, it's like a gateway drug.
To a more mindful relationship.
To mindfulness.
Yeah.
And I think it's empowering for the listener because, you know, it's not just about learning techniques.
Right.
It's about
investing in your relationship.
Investing in your relationship.
Yeah. And recognizing that healthy relationships require effort.
It's not always easy.
No.
There's work involved.
It's work, it's communication.
It's communication.
And it's a willingness to grow and evolve together.
Together, yeah. And what I really appreciate about Kerner is that he encourages, like, ongoing exploration and experimentation.
It's not like
here's the rule book.
Here's the rule book. Follow these rules.
You're done.
Yeah.
Like, congratulations.
He's saying, like,
you figured it out.
Yeah, like here's a framework.
Here's some things to think about.
A set of principles.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it's up to each couple to find what works.
To figure it out.
For them.
And to maintain that curiosity.
Yeah, like that.
Right, that playfulness.
Playfulness.
Because honestly, relationships can get
stagnant
if you're not willing to.
If you're not willing to try new things.
Try new things or
mix it up.
Yeah, or mix it up.
You know? Keep the spark alive. Absolutely. Yeah, and I think, you know, that's a great point.
Yeah.
To kind of wrap things up.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground today.
A lot from the clitoris.
From the clitoris.
To mindful sexuality.
Mindful sexuality.
To the impact on relationships.
To how all of this can affect your relationship as a whole.
Yeah.
So if you're feeling inspired to deepen your connection, explore new avenues of intimacy, or just create a more fulfilling relationship, I highly recommend checking out She Comes First.
Yeah.
It might just be that spark you need.
That spark,
You know, to ignite things.
To take things to the next level.
To the next level, yeah.
And remember, like, this is just the beginning.
The beginning of the journey.
The beginning of the journey.
Keep exploring. Keep communicating.
Communicate.
And above all,
keep
having fun.
Keep having fun.
Yeah.
That's great advice.
Yeah.
And that wraps up our deep dive.
On She Comes First. Until next time.
Stay curious.
Stay curious.
And keep those conversations going.
And keep having those conversations.